Welcome to The Coin, Black History on the Other Side podcast, hosted by Brittany Wilkins. This podcast is brought to you by Historians Connect. Historians Connect is a nonprofit organization with a mission to bridge the gap between African American history and culture by preserving the legacies of African Americans, debunking myths, defining Black excellence, while rewriting the narrative of African American history. If you tuned into the show to learn a new and different perspective on Black history, you're in the right place. This is not America's founding fathers' history of slavery and oppression. We're changing the culture by changing the narrative, educating listeners on various aspects of Black history spanning from ancient African history to current day events affecting communities around the world. Empowerment through cultural education. This is The Coin, Black History on the Other Side.
We observe the fusion of two forces, tradition and newness, to produce the Aztec Empire. This fusion was accelerated by the arrival of a series of cultural immigrants who brought with them ancient knowledge. The most interesting are those whom the chronicles name those who returned. Ignacio Bernal, Mexico before Cortez. Welcome to Season 2 of The Coin, Black History on the Other Side. I'm your host, Brittany Wilkins, author, Black history educator, and founder of Historians Connect. When Dr. Ivan Van Sertima wrote the book, They Came Before Columbus, it was his intent to reconstruct a fragmented history of Africa in the Americas. His purpose was to rebuild libraries of history that had been destroyed. It was estimated that over 84,000 books were destroyed that killed off African and or Black history. His goal was to not only rewrite the history, but rid the minds of the Eurocentric viewpoints of history. His pioneering work in linguistics and anthropology brought to light the African presence in ancient America prior to Columbus discovering America. Dr. Van Sertima writes how not only did they arrive in Americas, but the influence they made integrating with other cultures. In today's show, we will discuss the Mandingo traders in medieval Mexico. The traders had migrated to Tenochtitlan, today known as Mexico City. No one had no idea where they originally came from, as all sorts of people were gravitating towards the lakes to form the nucleus of New Mexico. The traders were described as the Black merchants from the hot lands. They came selling vivid color mantles of cotton cloths, golden ear pendants, and smoking pipes. The appearance of these men dressed in loincloths made observers pass judgment on them as being barbaric and wretched. But it was their religion that caught the eye of the people in the town. As they settled into Mexico, the traders had built houses and a temple, and a wooden statue of a werewolf stood at the forecourt of the temple. The Coyote Knoll was built in the form of a werewolf and a man, dressed in coyote skin, but had the figure of a slightly bent over old man. A human mask covered the coyote head, and protruding from its mouth were long, pointed goat teeth. Decked out in black stones was a stick in the hand of the statue. The statue resembled the appearance of the black traders, with small white rattles on the ankles and sandals of yucca leaves on its paw. Haven't experienced or seen anything like this before, the feather workers in town were fascinated and loved all the exquisite new material that was being exchanged through trade. As the main new attraction to the city, Africans had influenced those to join in their rituals and festivities. The origins of the werewolf cult were traced back to the Bambara, the leading tribe of the Mandingo of medieval Mali. In examining Mexico rituals, it was observed that the god of Amateca was clothed in werewolf skin, similarly wearing a human mask on its head, and in Mexico rituals, the god also yields a stick decked out in black stones. In Bambara rituals, feathered carcass of two great birds are part of the ceremonies. And in comparison to Mexican rituals, a pot is carried on the back of the god with numerous feathers of the bird. According to the text, the Quetzalí bird was introduced by the Poteca. The Poteca is defined as a long-distance traveling merchants in the Aztec Empire. Visually, you can see the Mexico god wearing an anklet of small white rattles. Rattles were part of the Bambara rituals as well. Is it coincidence that we see similar parallels between the Bambara tribe rituals and Mexican rituals? Vanserma states we can see that the confluence of cultures was taking place. We can look at it as the merging or blending of cultures seeking to understand each other and adopting customs, rituals, and goods they were not previously accustomed to. But not only was it religion that the Africans came with the influence, it was also the adoption of language. The Mandingo traders not only played a role in influencing new cultural norms in Mexico, but it was the infusion of linguistics and the adoptions of Nogalism. Nogalism is the belief of Gnolls. Merriam-Webster defines Gnolls, N-A-H-U-A-L-S, as a personal guardian spirit or protective alter ego assumed by various Middle American Indians to reside in an animal or less frequently in some other embodiment. In his book, Vanserma references Daniel Garrison Britton. Daniel Garrison Britton was an American surgeon, historian, anthropologist, and ethnologist who authored the book Nogalism, a study of Native American folklore and history. In his book, he discusses the nature and meaning of Gnaw and the derivatives of the verbal root Gnaw. It was concluded that the word Gnaw and the body of beliefs attached to them, Nogalism, were brought into Mexico by foreign medicine men. Furthermore, it was discovered the meaning of Gnaw, meaning mystical knowledge, the knowledge of the hidden secret things of nature. Evidence suggests that the root word Gnaw, Nogalism, was not ever found in the dialect of the Mayan society prior to the arrival of the traders from the hotlands. So it was the religion of fluence, the adoption of language, Nogalism, but also too, DNA and scientific studies also suggest that Africans were in the Americas prior to Columbus's arrival. During their time in the Americas, the Mandingo traders mixed and mingled, and in the 1960s, serological surveys were conducted on the Lancandian Indians of the Maya tribes. Serology is the scientific study or diagnostic examination of blood serum. Dr. Alfonso de Grey, the director at the time of the genetic program of the National Commission for Nuclear Energy in Mexico, uncovered from his surveys early and extensive contact between the Lancandians and the Africans, as Negroid characteristics had been found in their blood. Dr. de Grey report includes a reference to sickle cell, which is a malaria-resistant mutant gene that usually is only found in the blood of Black people. So as you look at the religious influence, the adoption of language, and the DNA scientific studies, from the eyewitness accounts to the linguistics research, scientific studies, Africans were in ancient America prior to the arrival of Columbus. And the value of they came before Columbus really showcases a different Black history. There is far more to Black history than slavery, but there is also too history within history. His book shows the impact Africans had on the civilizations they interface with. But more importantly, his work is backed up by references that point you to the evidence. As quoted by Publishers Weekly, "They Came Before Columbus" is a big boost to Black cultural history. So I encourage anyone seeking to learn a different Black history other than slavery to read this book. And let us honor Dr. Ivan Van Sertima for his dedication, commitment, and sacrifice in rebuilding libraries of history to educate the generations of the past, the present, and the future. Thank you for tuning into The Coin, Black History on the Other Side. More to come in Season 2.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Coin Black History on the Other Side podcast. Learn, explore, and create history with us. Visit us on the web at www.historiansconnect.org. Remember, a people without knowledge of their history is like a tree without roots. Stay connected to your roots.